go. Recording and do this. I have some notes. I got paranoid because normally you're so good at texting me back. And I was like, oh my gosh, did I get the wrong day? Is John gonna stand me up? Like I totally had that moment.
I was on the phone with my sister and
No.
trying to do 1,000 things at once.
No, you're good. You're great. You're great. Well, here we are, John and Lynn hanging out on the Zoom. Welcome back to the Work of Art Coaching Podcast, Team Brave, where we get to talk to freaking badass creatives about what it feels like on the inside to be a courageous mofo.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So this is Jon Snow. He is one of my favorite Los Angeles humans. We've known each other for an embarrassingly long time. Yeah.
Very long time.
A very long time. And he is an actor. He's a writer. He's a teacher, a spiritual journeyer, many, many things, John. You're all the things.
I take all of those things. Thank you.
I received. Okay, let's just jump right in because I think we have a lot to talk about. I want you to tell me, John, what it feels like to you to be brave.
Oof. That's a really great question. It feels scary, but ultimately right. Yeah, I know that I'm being brave when I'm terrified, but I move in that direction anyway. And I usually know that when something makes me feel scared or terrified that way, that's probably the direction I need to go in. And that's probably something that I need to explore. And so that moment of recognizing it for what it is and then saying, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. I keep feeling right here in
You're
my
touching your chest.
Yeah, like right here in the breastbone, just almost, to me, it feels like a cracking open and an expansion from there.
Expansion is a word that's been coming up a lot for me lately. And the cracking part of it, right? Like, I think that sometimes thinking about doing the thing is way worse than doing the thing.
Oh, 100%.
The fear of how bad the cracking is going to feel versus the actual experience of the cracking isn't that bad.
100%. The fear is always greater than the reality. Always. You know, it's funny. I think this goes in line with this exact thing. I'm working on a new project right now. And a friend of mine from back home sent me yearbooks from high school. And I don't have any. I never had any. And literally we couldn't afford them. So I never got them. And the only one that's missing right now, strangely enough, is the year I graduated. But I was looking through all of those, and I was actually telling my therapist yesterday, it's been really fascinating because there's so much that I'd forgotten. But the most fascinating thing to me so far is looking at those faces, looking at those people and thinking, I was scared of that.
Wow.
I was scared of you. Because in my mind, even as an adult now, looking back at it, like these are some, the bullies that would pick on me or whatever, these huge monster kind of guys in my mind.
Megaliths, yeah.
And then I'm looking at these pictures of them in this yearbook and I was like, you're just a stupid kid.
You're a scrawny white dude. What am I thinking?
I was scared of you,
Yeah.
So I think that's, if we could have hindsight in that way, I think with everything, we would always look at it and go, oh, I made it so much
Yeah.
bigger in my head than it actually was. So
Yeah, I think about that when it comes to like the people we loved or had crushes on too. Like I literally still have a picture of this guy from camp that he had sent me this picture, and it's in my jewelry box, and I just keep this little thing, and like it is inappropriate that I have this now because this is a seventh grader. You know what I mean? But like I created this whole experience for myself, feeling all the feelings of love and
Mm,
desire and, attraction or flirtatiousness or whatever. And now it's like that is a small child. That is a
yeah.
small child who like got an allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's so helpful to put that into context because it's like to say, all right, I was so afraid of those things back then.
Mhm.
And then a few years later, I had a totally different set of fears. What's the first when you move to a big city for the first time, how am I
Mm.
going to pay my rent? How am I going to find a job? Oh, fuck, I got my 17th parking ticket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, speaking from personal experience. The LA traffic people in me they were out to get me my first year here. They were literally like sent from God to be like, you sure you want to be in LA? Because you're
Mhm.
getting another parking ticket and another speeding violation. Um, but to say like, okay, now I know I pay my rent every month or my mortgage or whatever. Like I got it. I know what my side hustle is. Like,
Mhm.
and to then be like, well, what am I so afraid of right now
Mhm.
that is going to be the same thing later?
I am thoroughly convinced that if you are committed to growth, that is the entire cycle of life. It is a breaking through and understanding something on a deeper level and looking back and saying, "Oh, I shouldn't have been so afraid of
Mm,
all these things that I was." But as soon as you break through that, there's a whole other unknown terrain
yeah,
and a whole other set of fears and
yeah,
a whole other set of doubts that come along with that that you then have to push through and get through.
yeah,
And then great, one day, perhaps if you're
yeah.
committed, you do it, but then it just starts all over again and it's just never ending. And so I'm thoroughly convinced that this is the way of life. And when people say things like no one knows what they're doing, that's
Mm,
why. Because as
mm.
soon as you know what you're doing,
Yes, you
you're
get,
presented with an entirely different world where you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and now you have to figure it out again.
yes.
So,
And it's why we need to, in the midst of our fears and in the midst of our unaccomplished goals, et cetera, celebrate the fuck out of it and just enjoy
yes.
the process, right? Because like the process is the process. And so we do have to take those moments to stop, to celebrate, to party, to relax, to rest, right? There's no rush because there's only just a different set of experiences.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen the movie Defending Your Life?
Oh my God. Yeah, we just watched that again. I've seen it several times, but
It's
we just watched it again like a month or two ago.
it's literally my top
Yeah.
5 movies. It's in my
Yeah.
top 5 movies. Like
It's
Interstellar
fantastic.
is in there, and then like Defending Your Life is in there, and of course Spaceballs and League of Their Own, and probably that one with Steve Martin and Claire Danes. But anyway, Defending Your Life is like my favorite movie because I feel like we all have that core thing. And as storytellers, a lot of times you'll notice that somebody's writing the same story or they're circling around the same theme. Like I just did a
Mhm.
Ryan Murphy project and he really writes a lot about ambition. It's like
Mm.
it's his thing that he chews on, maybe.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I really think one of my things is fear.
Mhm.
And that movie is Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep, and
Yeah.
it's the real true story of what happens after you die.
The very true
The
story.
very true story. There's
Forget what you
Tupa's.
heard in
Yeah.
church. This is what happens.
There's like what are those
You ride a
called? The
tram.
trams. Yeah, there's trams. There's the past life pavilion.
That's right.
You gotta love it. But like it's about like did you face your fears? Are you ready to move on? Did you face your fears? And it's
Right.
so touching to me that somebody would make a whole like Disneyland story of heaven
That
about
that that movie hits me in a different way every time I've watched it. And
wild.
it just depends on where I am right now in this
Yeah.
place. So it's just every time I watch it, I'm in a different place. I'm a different person. So I get something different out
Yeah.
of it. And every single time I'm like, oh shit,
It's
wow,
deep and
they're
it's
not
funny.
wrong.
And it's funny, every time you laugh.
It is.
Every time I'm also very sad that he doesn't take more bites of his meal at breakfast. Every time I watch that movie, he can eat as much as he wants, and he always and only ever has like one bite. So good. It feels scary, but you feel a calling inside yourself to follow that scary.
Yeah.
That was sort of what you shared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
So
it's the motivation behind, when I choose a class to take or, anything like that.
wow.
It's just, this scares the shit out of me. Okay, well then let's go
man.
there and find out what happens. I mean, like I'm used to getting beat up. Like I know I can handle that. I can get rolled around. I can get thrown in the dirt and kicked and all of that. Like I know what that feels like. I grew up that way. And so that's the easy part.
Yeah.
Like
Interesting.
I'll go do that, but I'm also terrified of what if I don't overcome it this time, but that's usually where I can, and I resist like hell. Like I think a lot of us do. But that's the challenge. That's the whole point, is to push through that resistance and get to the other side of it.
Yeah. A concept that I've been playing with is like, our brain is just plain doing its job when it's resisting, right? Like our primitive brain, it's called the motivational triad. It's resist pain, seek pleasure, and conserve energy. And like our brain is just, that's our brain. Our brain's like, no.
The dog is definitely protecting the house right now.
Yeah, right. Because you are under attack.
Clearly.
You're under attack.
It's probably the male person.
Always. I mean, they are vicious, dangerous creatures. Those people that put paper cut giving objects.
They come to the house at the same time every single day, but
it's so beautiful.
The day might be the day they breach.
They might be. I mean, and that is literally our brain. Like we are programmed to just be on the alert, So when knowing, I had a moment, like I think it was a week or two ago, when I realized that if I'm struggling with something, my brain is sending me messages that something has gone terribly wrong. Instead of like, no, it's like, you've never done this before. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. I'm taking a business class right now, which again, I took it because it scared me. I've never taken a business class in my life. And
like a business for acting kind of.
No. It has nothing to do with acting at all.
What is this class?
It's just, it's a business class. I actually took it because of Sam Valentine's One Broke Actress podcast.
Great.
That she promoted it. And but yeah, it has nothing to do with acting whatsoever.
It's just plain.
It's just business. Right. I mean, so far we've been building our branding and that kind of thing right now.
Wow. And it could be for anybody.
It could be, it could be for anything. And I don't know exactly where it'll take me or what I'll do with it per se, but it was just something I thought, I've never taken a business class, and, obviously the biggest obstacle for me being an actor in LA was getting out of the mindset of, I just want to be an artist. I don't want to deal with the business. And only when I started to embrace the business side of it did my career actually do anything. And I actually got to work. And so I just thought, let me take another business class that has nothing to do with acting, has nothing to do with any of this business whatsoever, but let me just try to figure out and just see what I can glean from it. Whatever it gives me, it gives me. So I just thought I would take the journey. And again, it's because it scares me. But one of the things that I love that she talks about, that she gave us right off the bat, was the mantra of saying, it's not hard, it's just new. Oh. And I really love that. And I've been using it to the point that last week I had a dream. And in the dream, I was sitting at a drum kit. I've never played the drums in my life. I have sat at a drum kit like maybe twice in my entire life.
Wow.
Just to see if I could hammer something out.
Yeah.
Couldn't do shit. And in this dream, I'm sitting at the drum kit and I'm on and I look up and I'm on stage, and there's a lead singer in front of me, and there's an audience. Wow. Everything's happening. He turns around with this shit-eating grin on his face and he goes, "You got this."
Big old thumbs up.
And I was like, what? And then I heard myself in the dream singing, and I don't even know how I sounded, but I can't remember the tune anymore. It's a dream, but so bear with me. But I heard myself in the dream singing, um, it's not hard. I was like, it's not hard. It's just new. It's not hard. It's just new. And then I fucking played the drums, man. And I was like on it. I was in the show. We were on stage. The crowd was going wild. And I was there. And I had never played the drums in my life. And then later on, he put me in front of another drum in the same dream, put me in front of another drum. And I take a cover off of it. And it's a fucking steel drum. And he looks at me again and he's like, you got this.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, fuck it.
You got to name who that guy is, because he's like a spirit guide for you. Like, I think he has some energy for you. That's amazing. I love how dreams are our brains crafting a new pathway, just like our subconscious. Do you ever have the dream like it's time to go on stage, you don't know your lines?
It's been a long time.
Like, I've had that dream so many times that I now have like a system of what I do to like deal with it. And literally, it's like the last time I remember having this, I was just like in the green room and I was like, can I have a Diet Coke? Hey, you guys, I don't know this. So it's just, anyway, we'll just see what happens. Like, and I full on in the dream was like, I'm not worrying about it. I'm not worrying about it. And then one of my friends, who is actually Rachel Drummond. We're going to have her on the podcast pretty soon, but she actually is like a dream interpreter. She sent me a text. She was like, you were in my dream last night and we were doing a show and I didn't know my lines and you were cool. And I was like, yeah, I bet Dream Lynn in your brain was cool, because Dream Lynn in her brain knows now. It'll be like, I don't know, I don't know. I'm just going to do it. It's so good. So I want to ask you this next question that I always ask, and then we'll just see where the conversation takes us. But what do you make and what do you like to make?
What do I make and what do I like to make? Hopefully I'm making, stories that will give people permission to speak their own truth in their own story, which is also what I like to make.
Yeah, it's great when those two are the same, right?
Yeah. That's why, I have a sort of, I always say I have a love-hate relationship with writing, and I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't hate it. I'm also not sure that I completely love it. But I am compelled to do it often. And literally everything that I work on has been a way of me telling a story that is either important to me, personal to me, or that I've experienced, so that I can put that out into the world, and that story then becomes this hand reaching out, saying, you're not alone. Because I know that was my biggest thing growing up. I thought I was all alone in the experiences that I had.
Yeah.
I can talk about those things if you want me to, but most of it. And I always felt so alone until I realized through telling my stories that I wasn't. And that has become the driving force for literally everything I create on my own terms, so that I can say, I know there are so many of you out there like me, who felt like me, who do feel like I did at that point. And I want you to know there's a way out. You don't have to do this alone. There are other people, because you always think you're the only one until you find out you're not.
So good to just take a moment to acknowledge that, like, what you said is what you like to make is what you get to make now. And to just own that moment of like, there were many times in your journey, and I think probably, I know in mine, and I think a lot of people who are listening, there are people who have just recently come to LA and who are spending a lot of their time, like we did a number of years ago, working at a restaurant together,
which poor souls,
which is actually where John and I met. We met working at an Italian restaurant, spending way too much of our time making deliveries of food to people. Yeah. And yet through the years, right? Years and years and years that we've been here. I've been here 16. You're close to that.
What year is this? 21? Um, this is going to be 19 years. That's 18 and a half years right now, I think.
Yeah.
Which, 14 of those was my wandering around in the wilderness.
Which is a beautiful thing. We're going to, make sure we check back in to share like that this thing takes some time, and those years of doing something that you don't necessarily like in the pursuit of doing something you do want to do aren't
Mm-hmm.
wasted. There's so many jewels and gems there. So like, how cool is that, John, that you like to make what you get to make? It's like a
Yeah.
really special thing. And
Yeah.
then I would love for you to share, I mean, your story is so rich, and I think you're coming to terms isn't exactly the right word, but I think you're embracing where you came from in this beautiful way. So let's just touch on,
Sure.
I was going to say this later, but like touch on the working class actor as
Okay.
an ownership thing, and then just give us like a gentle picture of some of the shit that you've had to navigate.
Yeah. Well, it might be easier to start the other way around.
Okay, great.
Because the working class actor is, to me, born out of the realization that I had been, until very, very recently, I had been running away from all of my stories and running away from the past that I experienced.
Your identity.
Yeah, absolutely. I was raised in a cult. I always called it a cult and thought of it as a cult, but only shared that idea with people who were very close to me or who had gone through it with me.
Yeah, it turns out people who run cults don't like them to be called cults.
They do not.
It's
really funny how that works.
Yeah.
They're fine doing their thing until you call them out on it.
Yeah, and what's interesting about your story is it's not like some weird desert where a certain kind of white robe kind of cult,
It was
in plain sight.
hidden in plain sight kind of cult. That's right. And it wasn't until 2.5 years ago, whatever it was, that a 5-part expose came out in a national paper, and they said unequivocally, this is a cult, that I went, holy shit,
Yeah.
that was a cult.
Right.
And I can say that freely now. I was, and in that cult, I was sexually assaulted and abused. I was physically abused by my mom growing up. And those are the experiences that I mean when I say I felt like I was the only one. I felt like I was the only one who understood that, who felt that way, who was, being beat up by their mother, screamed at by their mother all the time, and put into those positions. And the story that I like to share is, and it's funny, like I said earlier, these cycles of life. I thought I had done a lot of great work on all of these things because.
And you probably had, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, sure. 100%.
In our healing work, we can only go so far at a time. It's an onion, and keep.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought, I had done 2 different versions of a one-man show about growing up that way. And I thought, oh, I've done this. I've talked about it publicly. I put myself out there. I'm okay. And then that expose came out and I found myself bawling at my kitchen table, and realized, maybe I need to see a therapist, which is the first time I'd ever, gotten therapy in my life.
Really? You had been able to use your art kind of as a healing modality and then realized, I think it's time for some outside help too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because again, I could only go so far on my own.
Yeah.
And I personally, I felt that I needed that to advance beyond where I was and to get where I really want to go. But the very first time I did my solo show, it was a strange audience. We did it at Whittier College, and for some reason, the school decided to mandate that the entire sports wing of school, all the athletes had to come.
Wow.
And
a unique audience.
It is a very unique audience. You can imagine talking about sexual abuse in front of 18, 19, 20-year-old boys, a lot of them. And 5 minutes into my show, I hear myself say a line that's 5 minutes from the end of my show. My show was an hour long. I had that moment on stage that we've all had as actors going, oh, fuck, what did I just do? Where am I?
And you're the only one on stage.
How do I get back?
Yeah.
But again, being the actor that I am, I thought I found something, I latched onto it, I kept moving forward. The only person who knew I screwed up was me and my director and nobody else. And at the end of the show, I was sitting on stage, and my friend who had organized all of it and did her show alongside me, she was over here talking to the person who brought us in and coordinated the whole thing. And I'm sitting here really almost dead center stage, and I'm beating the shit out of myself. And I'm like, oh, I fucked that up. I missed that. I didn't say that. I meant to do this. I'm just beating the shit out of myself. Now, the corner of my eye over here, stage right, I see this young man step up on stage, and he looked very timid. And I look over at him, and he's looking at me as if his face is asking for permission. And so I wave him over. I say, hey, come here. He walks up to me, and he says, my name is Kofi. And I wanted to talk to you because I'm from Ghana. And I wanted to tell you that the things that you talked about tonight, they also happened to me. And I didn't know that we could talk about these things until I heard you. I have goosebumps. I still get goosebumps all these years later telling that story. I'm not going to cry.
Me neither. We're good. We got it together.
I wish I could find Kofi. I wish I could thank him, because whatever Kofi felt he needed from me that night, I needed him just as badly, if not more. Because without him, I'm not sure I would have continued. Because at that point, I was sitting on that stage and I was saying to myself, what the fuck am I doing? I can't do this. This is ridiculous. I'm never going to tell this story again. What am I thinking? How could I possibly think this was going to work? And then Kofi came to me and said what he said. And I thought, oh my God, that's why I'm telling this story.
There it is.
Because if I only reached Kofi, and I know how many people were in that audience, I know the numbers. Right. So I know there were many more people who have been affected by, directly and indirectly, from sexual assault and violence in that crowd, just based on the sheer numbers. But if all I got and the only person I touched that night was Kofi, it was well worth the effort. And so I literally think about him when I start anything, because I think to myself, if I only reach a Kofi, then this story is worth me telling. And that's where I operate from now.
So you studied some theater. How was that for transition? I'm working on my transition.
that was great transition. Right.
You
didn't know I was going to Oprah it out on you.
No, it was so good. There was a pause for some musical interlude because it was so beautiful. You had to really let that land, let everybody wipe their tears, and then just hard left turn.
Who was the interviewer who always gets everybody to cry? Was it
Barbara Walters?
Barbara Walters.
Yeah, Baba Wawa. I gotta get some Baba Wawa. So you did some theater, and you have kind of a crazy college experience, a stop-start within your college. And but I want to also just kind of ramp forward to say, you made it out to LA, you stayed, you left, you came back, and then when we met, right. When we met, I always think about this experience with you because I feel like we were both very different iterations of ourselves. We were very different, but we're still the same. And when we met, I said, hey, I'm an actor. And I just had this experience that John was like, yeah. And I was like, what is it about? What's happening? I am. And I was a little extra. I'm an extra human, but I was very extra in 2007.
I don't even know what that means, but I'm going to say I believe this.
Yeah. But you shared with me later what you thought of yourself and how that made you perceive other actors. Yeah. And I would love for you to kind of open that up just a minute.
Sure. If I remember correctly, you'll help me here. I think I said to you something along the lines of, there was no way that you could be an actor because you were working at a restaurant in Pasadena. And if you were working at a restaurant in Pasadena and I was working at a restaurant in Pasadena, then there was no way I was an actor either. And how dare you insult me by calling yourself an actor?
I feel like we've all had a version of this, right? Like,
Yeah.
and especially when you hear that some shithead has a callback for a TV show, you're like, I hate you. You're so bad. You are so bad. Like, how are you so bad in getting a callback, But we have that
Yeah.
comparison thing. And I think it comes from our own lack of ownership of our own self,
Absolutely. But it was just, that was my own fear, which was paired with jealousy.
Hmm.
I remember you did stuff and I didn't do anything.
Hmm.
And so seeing you do stuff just exposed that part of me that wasn't doing anything, not because I couldn't. I had plenty of friends, I had plenty of contacts. I could have done the actor things that I've done in the last 4.5 years. I just didn't do it then.
Yeah.
And so because you were exposing me as the fraud that I was by calling yourself an actor, it pissed me off. I just thought, you're not really an actor.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
very
it.
petty.
Well, yeah, no, and then we had I was a roommate. One of my roommates went to college with John, and we looked at each other like, what?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, we have more of a connection.
That was a fun moment.
That was a really fun moment. And then, over the years, it took us some time for you to really own, I am an actor.
Oh my God, yeah.
It took like a long
hours. Time. and look, even again, that moment of fear and stepping into the fear, that wasn't even enough for me to say and own I'm an actor. I pushed and fought to become a reader and ended up doing that for almost 4 years, like it was my job, literally like it was my job. And in that experience, I still didn't believe it. I mean, I got, one of my favorite stories is I got to, I was doing these, I was reading and I was doing everything from literally one-line co-stars all the way up to network and studio tests.
And when you say reading, you were a reader in casting sessions.
In casting sessions,
you were the person that the actor was reading opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's correct. And my favorite moment when I first started, and probably still actually, to be quite honest with you, was I got to go. We showed up early to Fox one day, and I got to read with Nestor Carbonell. And
he's in the morning show. He's got a million credits, right?
Dude's been everywhere. And he was there really early for some reason. And I saw him going over his sides, and I said, hey man, you want me to read lines with you? I was like, I'm going to be the reader for you in the room. He goes, oh, do you mind? And I said, no, not at all. He said, can we go down here around the corner and do that? Like, I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. We go, we do it. He asked me like all these questions, like, what are they looking for? What are they doing? How are they doing it in the room? I was like, well, on the day they're talking about being like chest to chest, mano a mano kind of thing. I was like, but obviously they don't want me on camera in the read. and he's like, can we do it that way? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm face to face with Nestor. Like I'm Nestor spitting on me.
Inches away from your nose.
Inches. And I remember thinking, I'm like, oh my God, this is happening.
I've got famous person spit on me now.
So we did the scene. We ran through the scene, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times. Nestor just rears back with both hands and goes, smack, right on my chest. He's like, you're fucking awesome. And I didn't know what to say. And I was just so excited. And I was just like, you're fucking awesome. And it's funny because, I saw him a few years later, and I at a coffee shop, and I went up to him and he goes, I know you. I said, yeah, man. And I told him, and he goes, right. And I told him, I said, listen, I got to tell you, man, I owe you a debt of gratitude. And he's like, really? I said, Nestor, you have no idea. You changed my life. And it took a long time. It wasn't like Nestor smacked me on the chest and instantly it was in me.
It reverberated.
It was Nestor smacked me on the chest, and a year later, I was like, I went toe to toe with Nestor and I held my own. Holy shit. I went toe to toe.
Maybe I'm
and
awesome.
I held my own. Yeah. And that's when and I told him this, and I was like, I was like, that changed my life. That changed my way of thinking. It took a while for me to get there, but it changed my whole mindset.
Of seeing
Because
yourself.
and but it's still a struggle. It's still, for me, it's still a struggle.
Yeah.
I still have little mantras. I write them out in the morning. I say them. I have a timer. I have reminders on my phone at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and 7 p.m. I look myself in the mirror and I say these little mantras at night before I go to bed. I do them. I write them down again, because there's still something. There's always that thing for me that's just like, nah, you're not that good. Nah, you're not really that good. And so I have to keep
practicing those thoughts, right?
I heard somebody describe it in such a beautiful way that until it becomes a song that plays in your mind. And I thought that was really interesting, because she was comparing it to sort of like a commercial jingle, where you don't have to think about certain commercial jingles. You just know them because they play over and over. You see that commercial so much. And, maybe this is a lost thing because we're old and, commercials
I can't
get
stop
skipped
singing
a lot.
right now. I can't stop singing. So kiss a little longer, hold tight a little longer.
Exactly.
I'm like, why is this in my head? I don't know why this is in my head.
And that's 40 years old, Lynn. I'm sorry.
No, it is 38 or less years old.
Sure. Let's go with that. But it's something that was played so much that you don't have to think about it anymore. And when I heard this woman say these things to yourself in a way till they become the song of your mind and your heart, I was just like, holy shit.
And that's what your dream was. You were singing to yourself. It's not hard. It's just new. It's not hard. It's just
yes,
new.
exactly.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
I remember you telling me one other thing about that Nestor moment, because that was really impactful, but he had a reaction to the audition experience.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was also a really mind-opening moment, because as he's sitting there, after I approach him, I say, "Do you want to read?" He's looking at something. I don't even know what he was doing. He just goes, "Ugh." I was like, "You good?" He goes, "I fucking hate these things." And I said, "What?" He goes, "I hate these fucking network tests. I hate them." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm nervous. He's like, I have all this." Like, it just went on, and he was, he's nervous. His mind is this and that. He's like, "I fucking hate him." And I was just like, holy shit. Dude has been around. He has been on his own shows. He has worked for a very long time, and he still gets nervous. He still gets not intimidated. I don't think that's the right word, but he still gets this fluster of feelings that come up in him when he knows he has to go in and do his test.
When it quote unquote matters, or when it actually does matter, right? I love that that's just part of the journey, right? Like, we're not doing anything wrong if we feel nervous. We're not doing anything wrong when these things are big deals. They're big deals because we care. Like, if we didn't care, it wouldn't be a big deal. It's worth it.
And I think also to pair that up and close it out a little bit, something else that I've recently learned that I thought was fascinating, I've been reading a lot about the brain, is that the mind doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. And you literally just say out loud, when you're feeling afraid, when you're feeling nervous, you just say out loud, "I'm excited. I'm excited." I had an audition to turn in today. And I went for a hike this morning, and almost the entire hike, literally almost the entire hike of an hour and a half out there, I just repeated over and over to myself as I was hiking, "I am excited and joyful to deliver a kick-ass self-tape today." And I just kept saying it. And I don't know what's going to happen, but fuck it. I felt good.
Right. Like, my shoulders dropped when you said that, right?
Yeah.
This beautifully opens up one of the things. I was watching one of your the working actor tapes. So John created a series of videos, which you can find on the working actor, what is it now? Working class. It's the working class actor
on YouTube.
And
you also find it on my Instagram.
Yeah. And it's called Casting from the Actor's Perspective, because John had 10,000 hours basically, being in auditions with working actors, but and sharing what it's like from the casting side. So I was watching the one where you talk about, like, these are all the reasons you're not going to book. Like
Yeah.
there's just so many reasons we can't
They
even
are
name,
infinite.
right?
They're
But
infinite.
to be like, I am going to be joyful. I'm going to deliver this gift. I'm going to be so joyful of the gift that I get to deliver. And I'm going to love
Yeah.
the gift that I get to deliver. And I'm gonna be proud of that. And I'm going to let it go. And there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And practicing that. So that's a great resource. And then I think I wanted to ask, a little bit about, like, you talked about going on your hike, and I know
Mhm.
that's been a big one. And
Mhm.
like, what are some of the other tools that you are activating? You were at a place for quite some time where you're like, I'm not even comfortable being an actor. And then in the last, really, think if it's like 4 years, is that what you really own, is your sort of 4 or 5?
Not even 5. Yeah,
Mm.
3 or
Hmm.
4. 2017 was when it started for me.
Is that when we did Fly to the Western Stars, or was that 2016?
I honestly don't remember.
Because John and I are also part of a theater company called Little Candle Productions, and actually that's probably where we got reconnected. And then I know
Possibly,
we did
yeah.
Life Group, but I think we did Life Group after we did a web series called Life Group 2. I'm just so many pitches for John and Lynn's projects together. I'm writing a short film. We're going to do a romance, it's the whole thing. But this theater company, you were the lead in a play, a Western kind of play. But
I
that's,
love that show.
I love that show. And I think that is maybe as we got to know each other again, we'd spend a lot of
Mhm.
time, we'd work together and then spent time apart because we weren't really buddies back then. And then
Yeah.
just coming back together as collaborators in this new phase, I think both of us, we've really journeyed through our own demons, our own like stories that are holding ourselves back.
Mhm.
And then to just be like, hey, let's do this. Let's do this. Like, we're doing this. This is happening.
Yeah,
And how can we
100%.
support each other in that? But so how would you say that you have supported yourself over the last 4 years as you've been like,
Mhm.
this is me. This is what I do. I'm an artist. I'm healing. I've
Mhm.
been wounded. I'm from this background. This is my truth. I know that you have taken a number of different classes that you've really loved.
Sure.
And then,
Sure.
some of the spiritual tools, like even just your hikes, like what are some of the things that have really assisted you in your journey?
I think the big one for me right now is surrender. And what I mean by that is there's a really great book. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. If it comes to me, I'll tell you,
Right.
or I'll text to you when I figure it out.
Fantastic. We'll go back in the edit and be like, there's a really great book called Beep.
Yeah.
Beep.
But surrendering to what is has been a huge practice for me as of late. And discovering that so often we suffer because we want reality to be different than it is. And we spend so much time and effort. And I will say, I'm saying we, but I'll just say me because I don't want to speak for anyone. I have spent and wasted so much time and energy wishing for or working toward, not even working toward really, but thinking that I can somehow manipulate or change reality rather than accepting the
Yeah.
reality. And that's been my biggest practice lately, is just figuring out where the things are that happen for me that sort of trigger something in me. Traffic is always a great one. Somebody cutting me off in traffic is a great one. Because now where I usually would be like, fuck you, not so they could see me,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
behind the dashboard.
Ha-ha!
um, but I would, instead of doing that, now I just try to stop and smile and say, I surrender.
Hmm.
I surrender. And that's been a big thing for me. Another thing that I love to do, something else besides those little reminders in my phone, is I have
That's a good
another.
one.
I
Yeah.
really love that one. That one's been really great for me. And but one thing I keep in my phone too is I have another file on Evernote that I keep called When Doubt Finds You. And that's been huge for me because, I think that any artistic journey is littered with doubt along the path. And
Nothing has gone wrong when there's doubt.
so, yeah. So, what I do is it's hard to trust myself in this, right? It's hard for me sometimes to look at myself and say, no, you're good at this.
Hmm.
Um, and so when I feel that way and I feel like I can't get out of my own way or get out of my own head about that, I'll open that up on my phone and I'll look, because what it is it is direct quotes that people have said to me. It is things that I have literally copied and pasted from emails. And it is all these from all other people saying, John, this was wonderful, or John, this, you're that, or, whatever it is,
Hmm.
so that I can get the outside feedback from somebody else. Because when I find myself in a place of severe doubt in that way, it is much easier for me to look outside and go, oh, these people think I'm awesome. These
Hmm.
people think I'm good at this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can slowly start to, find the light at the end of the tunnel there,
Mm-hmm.
and get back out
Mm-hmm.
again. Um, but meditation is a big thing for me. I have my own practices. I've started really getting weird with it again. I used to be really weird with it. And I'm starting to rediscover those things, the hikes that I've been doing recently. um, and it's just stillness. It's just listening as much as I possibly can. And 2007, 2008, 2009, that was when I was really, really into it. And I was going up in the hills, in Sierra Madre and the mountains. And there is, um, in some cultures, there is an animal associated with each direction: north, south, east, and west. The eagle to the north, the snake to the south, the hummingbird to the east, and the jaguar to the west. And those things represent different things in our lives. And um, I would say a little, I don't really want to call it a prayer necessarily, but something along those lines. And for example, the one that's interesting to me is the snake, because the snake represents victimhood. And I would always, so what I would do is, even today, so I go out and I say to the snake, to the brother snake, um, thank you for showing me where I'm being a victim in my life. May we discover all of the victimhood that still resides within me, so that we may eradicate it together and more fully travel this path.
Mm.
Something along those lines. And it's funny because, like I said, I had pushed all that aside for so long, and I literally just started doing it a few weeks ago again. And I started doing it because I had kept a blog back then, 2007, 8, 9, 10. I kept a blog about all these things, but I didn't really talk about the elements, the animals, those kinds of things. But I did talk about, at one point, I was reading it and I was like, and I used to run 40, 50 miles a week back then.
That's a lot
Running
of
all the
running.
time. Yeah. And I wrote in the blog that I was like, I have literally traveled hundreds and hundreds of miles in the mountains of Southern California. Um, I can tell you, I have seen a snake twice
Hmm.
on a trail. The very first day that I decided to do this practice, 2 weeks ago, I go out, I say my first little thing. I do it. I just find a spot and I just do it. And I find different spots along the path. And the very first spot, I do the thing. I take off again. I'm going up. Shit you not, I see a tiny little baby snake.
Hmm.
And I hadn't seen a snake, and I can't even tell you how
Hmm.
long. And I see this little tiny snake just squiggling across the path. And I look back, I see a woman, she has a little tiny dog. I warn her, hey, little snake here, be careful, blah, blah, blah. I go on. I stop at the second spot. I say my little prayer to the snake. And immediately the snake says to me, doesn't really say, don't get me wrong, I'm not
But you
crazy, I
heard
don't
it.
hear voices.
Mhm.
I get it's like an impression of something.
Sure.
And then I hear the snake say, your ankle is where you're being a victim. Because I twisted my ankle really badly about a year ago.
Mm.
And he said, your ankle, you're still being a victim about your ankle. Your ankle's fine.
Mm.
And I was like, oh. And so I ran on the trail for the first time in over a year.
Wow.
I ran, and I've been running.
Man.
I ran today, and I'm having no problems with my ankle. I'm like, oh. And now look, it is what it is.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be
Yeah,
safe. You want to
yeah,
be,
absolutely.
wise, etc.
But it's just a practice of, for me, just getting so still that I can actually hear something like that, so that I can then act upon it. And don't take mine figure it out for yourself, listen
Yeah.
for yourself, find out what comes for you naturally. But um, it's amazing to me. Um, I'm very humbled. I feel very humbled right now, even talking about it, because you're the first person I've talked to about this like this.
Mm,
Um, because in some way I feel embarrassed by it, which is funny.
mm,
Um, but I'm also very excited about it because there is a sense of calmness and peace in me that I haven't experienced in a very long time. And I know it's because I have neglected that part of myself, that side, that spiritual side of myself.
yeah.
And now that I'm getting back in touch with it again, and I'm starting to feel and hear these things again, it's like, oh, there's so much more in me than I'm giving myself credit for. And I feel like this is, again, I've been breaking lately so that I can get down to this point so that I can be on my back and look up and go, okay, well, what the fuck now? Because none of
Mm,
this is working. So I've got to figure
mm,
something else out, which is what prompted me to even start doing that shit again. And now that I'm doing that shit again, it's like, oh, this feels good.
yeah.
This is where I live. Can I act from this place? And I don't mean just in my life, but also in my art. Can I act from this place and
Yeah.
carry this with me throughout my life? Because that's when I feel the most powerful. That's when I feel most connected to people. That's when I feel like I can really reach into your heart and touch your heart in a way that I hadn't been able to before that. So,
And that's what makes a co-star audition the means for transcendence, is when you're not
mm,
doing a friggin' co-star audition. You are sharing your story, your
absolutely.
brokenness, your crack, your just journey, you know, a one-line waiter, which happens to be one of your first TV jobs on
That's right.
911, right?
That's right.
Right?
That's
Like
right.
the waiter who 15 years ago was actually opening the bottle of wine,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, then gets to be the guy who says a couple words, but you're not just saying those words. You're saying, I care about what I'm making, and this is a
Hmm.
part of my journey, and I'm bringing my whole self to serve in this way.
Yeah.
One of the things that I just want to point out, because I grew up in a very conservative Christian community, and I'm still in a Christian kind of path, but having had a huge deconstruction and a huge breaking of the heart and a huge like loss and confusion and a reconstruction there. And so it just to mirror, you know, what I love about where you are with your own spirituality right now is that having come from a place where spirituality was cloaked in religion, and that religion
Mm,
was cloaked in abuse and power, you are taking off those cloaks and you are coming back to uh, a, a deep knowing that is deeper than our physical world that we can see,
mm,
that is healing and is making sense to you. And like, I think that, you know, what you said earlier about like, I want to tell my story for someone to know they're not alone. Like, there's a lot of different kinds of trauma. And I think spiritual trauma is one that
mm,
I have like really truly, it's shaken me to my core
mhm,
because unlike you, I didn't call what I was a part of a cult. I didn't have any idea. I thought it was
mm,
the only way, the right
mhm.
way, you
Yeah,
know?
well, so did I for a long time, but
You
yeah.
know, but to just have that be broken, it's so terrifying because it's the ground that you kind of have defined yourself on. And to know like someone on the outside being like, I know how scary that feels.
Mm,
You're going to get through it. There's resources. You're not alone. And I am, you know, you are stepping into your own healing in your own way, you know, and I think
yeah.
that's super, super cool. Um,
And
I want,
the great
yeah.
irony of this is that um, there's no difference now, really, in my mind, between me and the preacher,
Hmm,
except that I'm not beholden to the dogma.
hmm,
That's what's funny to me, because
hmm.
I give, if I give of my spirit the way that they claim that we were supposed to, then
You're actually doing
that's actually what I'm
You're
doing.
like doing the pure
Yeah,
version of how
yeah,
they, you know, poisoned the well, but you're
that's
like, oh, no,
right.
no, no, the water is still pure. The water is good. You know, here we are preaching in this
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
We're gonna kind of just get into some wrap up time because this
Okay,
has
yeah,
been
sure.
such a fantastic conversation, and I'm excited to give everyone just like a very condensed, you know, it's like the speaking of working class, like, did you ever get juice in a can from the freezer
Oh
sections.
God, yeah.
It's the only way, like, I didn't know you could make orange juice without it being frozen and
Yeah.
getting like a wooden spoon and
Oh
knocking it
my God,
around.
yeah. 100%.
So it's like the
100%.
condensed version of our
Lynn, we
conversation.
were so poor. I can't tell you how many times I made powdered milk
Yes.
and put ice cubes in it to make sure it was cold because, you know, we had run out and it was breakfast
So
time and
you
I
were
needed to
making,
get to school.
you know, you were making lattes in before, you know, with
Shit.
the iced lattes before you even knew. So funny. It's so funny. Yeah, no, I think owning where we come from is something I'll let you touch on that. Like, you know, what does it mean to you to be someone? Because this is something for me, I'll just share that, like,
Sure.
a couple years ago, I did a consult with Audrey Moore from Audrey Helps Actors. Whoop, whoop. Audrey Helps Actors, great
Love her.
podcast. You know, she
Absolutely.
was maybe the first person to really start talking about the realities of what this business looks like. And
She changed my whole world.
yeah, same.
100%.
Same. And the consult that I did with her, you know, there was a time about 2 years before that I had said to my current managers at the time, do I just have to be beautiful? Do I just have to be beautiful? Do I just need to go to Dana Patrick and be beautiful?
Yeah.
And
Also love Dana Patrick.
love Dana Patrick. Oh, I thought you were going to say also you are beautiful, but no.
Oh, sorry. I don't have my glasses on. I couldn't read my lines.
That's what it is. No, but like just to try and find that space for ourselves. Like, what is the closest fit? What is the easiest break in? You know, you got to find a way to get that first co-star, that second co-star, that third co-star, like path of least resistance. Like I know you want to be a great actor. You know, you're a great actor. Please stop trying to convince casting that you're a great actor and just say the lines. Like, be the waiter that they need to be in that scene.
Absolutely.
You know? And what kind of waiter are you? And how do you get your materials aligned and your reel aligned? And how do you on the inside feel comfortable and like, yes, this is right. But one of the things Audrey really encouraged me to do, she's like, you're trying to compete going up the ladder. You're trying to compete going glamorous and you're trying to compete going wealthy. She's like, go down.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, go down. How dare she? I did not grow up poor. I grew up, you know, like I did not grow up in a trailer park. I grew up next to a trailer park. Right. And just owning my own pride and my own discomfort of all the stories I had of like, you know, being in 7th grade and not having the brand name jeans and wearing a flannel around my waist to cover the pockets had the wrong brand on them. Or, you know, those are just such real woundings for me, you know. And growing up in Indiana, it was just like regular, right? We were middle class. I mean, I had 2 parents. What was I complaining about? But those are like things that now are actually beautiful parts about us as Hollywood transplants, right? Like, we didn't have a paved path, and that allowed us to create resilience and really just like a gritty authenticity, you know? So as I've crafted my materials to be like, she's struggled, like she is tired, you know, like this is a working class mom. This is a single mom. She has seen things. What did I book last year? Single working class mom. What did I book? Single working class mom. What else did I book? Like a middle management secretary. What did I book right before that? Like city council person, right? Like these are working class-ish, you know, characters. And that's something that you're owning for yourself and kind of like really finding that as a way in. And maybe even just share how that came about.
Sure. Well, as you know, that came about watching a video from Tony Toast.
Writer.
He's a writer. Yep. He's been around for a while. He created his own series called Damnation. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. He said, I believe, if I remember correctly, he said that he imagined what it would be like to have a Western crime story set in the 1930s or something like that.
Yeah.
Fascinating show. Too bad it's only one season.
It's a series, like the British series, right?
Yeah,
like,
but no, well, I mean,
end.
I think he probably had plans to go further, but I would let him tell you if he did or not. But you know, he's written for a bunch of other shows too. But it really struck me because I wrote to him and I told him that, you know, this is one of those moments in life where you realize you're finally hearing something for the first time that everyone else has been trying to get you to understand and hear for the longest time.
Yeah.
And it was really just owning who you are and where you came from, and that it really is where you came from that gives you the unique voice and the unique perspective that you can bring to anything. And as I was listening to him, I realized that my whole life I've been running away from where I came from. I've been trying to pretend like I was somehow above the cult. I was somehow above the poverty. I was somehow above all the abuse, rather than embracing all of those things so that I could bring that unique perspective and that unique voice to my work. And again, it clicked for me that I was like, oh my God, this is what my acting teachers mean when they say to bring, your uniqueness, bring you to the role. Because this whole time I think I was doing the exact same thing you were doing, which was trying to be something more, trying to be cooler, trying to be wealthier, trying to be whatever, instead of just going, no, I'm this poor fucking slob from South St. Louis who didn't have anything, couldn't afford anything. I remember being embarrassed to go to get a physical because I was afraid to ask my parents for $10. I think it was $10 to get a physical for basketball. And I was terrified of asking them for the $10. Sorry. It's okay. But I was terrified of asking them for the $10 because I knew we couldn't afford it, and so that just switched in my brain that I was like, oh my God, that's what I've been missing. I've been avoiding all of those things, and in avoiding all of those things, I haven't been bringing myself to these roles. So what can I do now that I understand that and I'm going to embrace that?
I just loved what he said, that the thing that keeps you out of the rooms, once you figure out how to get in them, is the thing that's going to make you special while you're there.
That's what makes you interesting.
Yeah. And there's that how do you get in them? That is an art in of itself, right?
Sure.
But I feel like if we zoom past the how and we go to, I'm going to own exactly who I am, and I'm going to practice loving the parts of me that I have practiced hating for so many years. It's like we don't have to figure out the how because the thought has changed. The feeling has changed.
That is the how, though. That's what's crazy, that is the how. The how is forgetting the how and embracing who you are fully. Yeah. And the more you embrace yourself and your story and your unique place in the world more fully, that becomes the how that gets you in the room. It's the strangest fucking thing in the world.
I had a casting director once say that he sees, 10,000 pictures in a day, if not more, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, I just can spot a false picture. I can just spot a picture that's not honest. And it gave me this, I was like, all I have to do in my friggin' headshots is be honest.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I heard Risa Brahman Garcia say, the auditions that I'm moved by, right? It's like we spend so much time and energy with all this garbage. And if we would just hone in, who am I? What moves me? How do I open myself up to this character whose job it is to move someone, whether that is emotionally, whether it's with laughter, whether it's with intense, whatever. It's like, how do I connect to the part of me that wants to be moved and trust that, like, if it moves me, it'll probably move somebody else. There's no magical, say this magic thing to connect. Like, you're the artist, you got it. You're an artist because you love this.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can we love ourselves forward through it?
Yeah. And, that experience for those years of being a reader, I can tell you unequivocally that you will never understand the rhyme or the reason as to why someone gets something, because I can't tell you how many times as the reader, I would think, holy shit, that hit me in the heart. I'm feeling all of that. I would cry with people. I mean, I was there with them. I went there with them. And people would just knock the shit out of me with their acting. And then they wouldn't even get called back for, another producer session or, a test or whatever it was. And then somebody else would get the role. And I'd be like, really? I mean, I acted with all of them. And this is the person that got it? Like, okay, cool. Yeah. Not to take anything away from that person's talent. No. Just for me, I know what moved me and what I felt when I was sitting there across from that person, from all those people. And for me, it was always so like, oh, obviously this person's going to get chosen. Nope, almost never. Almost never was I
And
right
that's where
about it.
it's so subjective,
Yeah.
but we don't have to be subjective about ourselves.
Yeah.
We can be on board. Like I'm on board. Like I'm
Yeah.
on board for me, you know?
Yeah.
Last words of wisdom, I think
Mm.
about people who maybe are starting out or who people who
Mhm.
have been here for quite some time. Like
Yeah.
what would you want to say to somebody about courage and about creating their artistic life?
Well, if you're new, embrace the business. Embrace the business side of this. I was, like I said, I was one of those stupid actors that was came out here. I'm an artist. I don't want to worry about that shit. Let somebody else do that. I thought that's what agents were for. I thought that's what managers were for. I don't need to worry about that bullshit. Embrace the business. You will be leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else that you come out here with, because the sooner you embrace the business, the faster you will move through this,
Yes.
and the faster you will put yourself on a track to actually do something with your career.
Let me say something
Um,
about that too that just came to me, which is like so much of that is starts kind of like with the typing and who am I? And
mhm,
like you don't know when you first move here. You don't
mhm,
know. You just think you
mhm.
are. You just think you're baseline neutral human. And like let just decide to lean one way and go there for a while, see if you get any traction. If that
That's right.
doesn't work, lean a different way. Maybe you're really funny, go hard funny. If you don't get any traction, go really dark gritty. Like you don't know who you are as you're starting out at 21, 22, 23, but that's okay. The parts that you do know, lean in, make a decision, get really clear, get really specific, and then reestablish. You're going to change. You're going to change. So
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
What else?
Um, and then I think, just kind of where I am right now is, make sure you cultivate a practice that, um, feeds your soul, feeds your spirit. Um, like I said, find a way to I use that file in my phone when doubt finds you, because you're going to go through those times, and, um, there's a lot of lean time in this business.
That's absolutely
Even
true.
even the actors that work a lot and have tons of money will still have long stretches without work. And if you don't have something, if you don't have a practice that can keep your mindset on track for you and feed your spirit and feed your soul, feed your mind, um, you're going to buckle under the weight of it at some point. And also, don't make your whole fucking life about acting. Like, do stuff, enjoy life, discover things, because everything you do, every experience you have is only going to inform you as a human being and make you that much more rich of a human
Mm,
being, which then in turn makes you that much more rich of an actor. It deepens the well you have to draw from. So don't have blinders on, don't have a one track mind, be
mm,
focused, be committed, but don't make acting every fucking thing.
yeah.
Like, the thing that's driving me crazy right now is I got on Clubhouse, and Clubhouse can be an interesting and wonderful tool, I think, but sometimes I look at Clubhouse and I see the same people in the same kinds of rooms every single day, and
Mm,
I'm like, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Just like with your life, like, if you have stuff to learn, cool, there's ways to go do that. But just because so and so casting director or so and so agent or manager is on this Clubhouse call doesn't mean you have to sit there and listen to it. And even I felt myself getting swept up in it when it first started, when I first got connected to Clubhouse. And then I was just like, I haven't looked at it in, I don't know, a week or two, because I'm just like, fuck this. Like, I have a life, I have things I want to do. Like, I don't need to
mm,
sit. So don't make acting everything. It's not everything. It should never be everything. You will be a one-dimensional human being, and your work will suffer for it, in my opinion. So,
mm. Love that.
and then the last thing I will say is one of my favorite practices is, there's a quote from Sam Beckett. Ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better, which I love.
Mm,
And I've adopted that and switched it for myself. And every night when I finish my little mantra stuff at the end, the last thing I write down on my page is, I give myself a word for today. Today was okay. Today was awesome, whatever it might be. And then I say, so let's just say today was awesome. Today was awesome. No matter, let's try again tomorrow. Because for me, it gives me some sort of weird permission to put the day to bed and just say, it's over, it's done. Can't do anything else. Can't reflect on it. I can reflect on it, but I can't change it. Everything that's been done has been done today. It's over. Let's put it away and let's start over again tomorrow, and let's see what we can do tomorrow. And that's been a really nice tool for me too. And, if you want to steal that one, by all means.
Blank canvases, right?
Yeah.
Paint them away, make them messy, make them
absolutely
go for it.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful because it's about the wins.
Mhm.
Gonna start again.
Yeah.
And it's about the failures.
And even the losses.
Yep.
Maybe even especially the losses.
Yeah.
Because
right?
no matter what happens, it's still only one day.
Yeah.
You might have gotten your ass beat today. That doesn't mean you're going to get your ass beat tomorrow. You might have triumphed today, but it doesn't mean you're going to triumph tomorrow. So for me, it's just a nice little check-in to say, cool, today was today. Don't have to carry it in tomorrow, regardless of whatever it may be. So
thank you, John, so much for coming. I love you and I love our friendship and our artist friendship. And
hell yeah.
We're all on board for you to take the world by storm.
Oh, thanks.
So check out what John is up to on his Instagram. What's your Instagram, John?
It's complicated because my name, that bastard, the literal bastard of the North. So it's the _ John _ Snow.
And it's JON.
Yes.
Just the same, right?
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram that way.
And then check out The Working Class Actor. Yeah. There's a lot of great materials, and we're going to definitely find ways to coordinate and collaborate with Work of Art Coaching in the future, because you have such a wealth of wisdom. And I'm literally in the middle of writing us a short film about a single working class mom and a recovering addict soccer coach. So, hey!
Yeah, right up my alley.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure. You're a blast.
It's been a pleasure and an honor for me too. Thanks, Lynn.
You're welcome.